whole thing shuts down. All of a sudden you got your and my program that we're talking about right now will not exist. Nobody will have any communication, nor will you be able to go anywhere.
Right. Wow. And
that's coming up.
You think that would be the prelude to the FEMA camp movement?
Well, I see you have to get people out there. The government, when I was checking this book out, I was very concerned. I mean, if Gingrich's put the front on it, and I read the book, and I said, this is pretty scary. I said, and I called one of my friends who's kind of an inner guy. I said, go check this out with your next door neighbor. And he came back. His next door neighbor is some guy named Donald Rumsfeld.
Right.
So he said they were very much aware of it when he was Secretary of Defense, and he said that his comment was that North Korea has that technology to do right now, and they were very concerned. So they've ordered their military to set on devices to cover all the tanks and the motors that they have to shield the electronics so they can continue.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's coming close right now, Bob.
Yeah. So let's kind of go around the globe a little bit, world leader wise. All of a sudden, Putin is now the bad guy. I mean, just really in the last week, he's I have a friend who calls me, and he's a great guy, and he's got a fairly good grasp on stuff, but he really bites on the bait of the mass media, and all of a sudden he's telling me what a bad dude Putin is, and things are going to hell in Russia. This is the perception of Putin has changed rapidly over the last 7 days. What's going on there with that, to the best of your ability, George, or to the best of your knowledge?
Well, no, Putin is not dumb. He's sitting in the position. He put himself so he could become the president during this time that you're looking at.
Right.
We're not saying that he's not having a bad time over there, but he's making deals with China to maintain his position over there. Now, Russia's huge. People don't realize how big Russia is, actually. It's 11 time zones.
Yeah.
And they've made a deal with China in order to provide all of the oil and gas. As you know, they got enormous amounts of natural resources
right.
But the trouble is their latitude. You realize all of Europe is above the latitude, like our Canadian border.
Yes.
So it's all colder.
Yeah.
And it's all, freezing. You got Siberia and all that stuff. But and their population is shrinking because of that. People are, migrating. They're just going there, and it's getting to be that. Now, my son happens to be a nuclear physicist who spent 3.5 years in the secret cities in Russia, so I have a little different perspective on what's happening over there. We're not saying that they're not having problems, but they're certainly being taken care of. So they're getting ready themselves with China for this war. They know this war is coming up.
Yeah.
So they have the people out there to say, hey, we're having more democracy and they're having more things. Well, if you've seen the movies and stuff or the TV things of Russia, everybody's got cars over there. They got gasoline.
Right. They're not.
No, it's not. But they've got to make him a bad guy again now.
Right.
Putin, he's pretty smart. He was KGB, as you know, when he came back in. That's kind of like, when Bush was the CIA head. People forget all these things. The intelligence community is, actually the CIA guys think that they run our country. I don't know if you know that, but it's great.
I mean, I'm sure if you went down to, through the ranks, CIA, Army, naval intelligence, I'm sure they all have some sort of claim or ownership or, thinking that they're the ones that are pulling the levers. What about Obama? I mean, there's so much, information, misinformation, noise about Obama. What's your take and the best kind of inside scoop you've got on him?
I don't have any. The only thing I look at it, when they put him into office, there was some kind of agenda that was coming up. That's all I know. I don't think we have any president since JFK, frankly, and JFK was put in office.
That's right.
Except for but he woke up to find out how much power he had, and they had to get rid of him.
Yeah.
But the rest of them are all put, and they're all beholding to somebody else. I mean, look, Obama immediately put our country in debt with another $6 trillion, bailing out the crazy stock market, the big insurance company up there, and the insurance company, because they were bailed out, they were insuring the pension funds for Congress.
Right, AIG.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, back in 1990, when I first came into contact with you and the material that you were disseminating at that time, one of the things you talked about was this whole concept of robotoids and synthetic robots and clones. Do you still ascribe to that theory in terms of people being put in place that aren't human at all?
Oh, you bet. I have a doctor friend who I haven't talked to actually for a couple of years, but treats the clones. They've been cloning people since '39. There's 8 countries making people.
Yeah.
So I was looking at, and it's a little hard. How do you tell them apart? And that I had a nurse when I was in Washington D.C. who works at Bethesda, and they said there's a wing in Bethesda that they treat that are all clones, and they don't call them clones. They call them the others. I thought that was an interesting term.
Uh-huh.
But and then I started. Dr. Peter Beater came out with the technology on it. People can look that up on the internet on the cloning techniques, and so that was pretty fascinating. Then I started looking at some of the old movies that we had out here. Like if you go look at The Boys from Brazil, the old movie.
Yeah.
That cloning technique that is actually shown is exactly the same thing the United States use. Russia's is a little bit different. China's is a little different, but they all have the same abilities. The problem with the clonings that they have, stress breaks down the clone pretty fast. Now, we get stressful. What happens? We get some kind of disease. But the clones are all I don't know if you're familiar how the method that they do it, but it's pretty simple when you look at it. But how do they get the intelligence so that person they look almost identical? The truth is, you can see some changes in them. It's like Young Bush.
Yeah.
Go get your video when he first came in office and listen to the way he talks and look at him very carefully, and then get the current videos that you see of him, and you'll see a different person.
Yeah.
And then he even talks different.
Yeah, he does talk different. I mean, there's clearly a demarcation between the guy that went in and the guy that we see now. It's pretty evident.
Well, it's like even Jimmy Carter, the real one. My understanding is the real one died a long time ago of brain cancer.
Yeah, and
so they're all used. They're all used for other things. I get more technology. Beater put out a lot of that stuff in the Wisconsin reports on some of them. So that's just technology that's available. So we don't know who we're dealing with at this minute, and I don't know how you'd be able to tell the difference between them unless you're up with them. And they usually, they could change the whole family if they wanted to. It's just the DNA programming that they have. Right.
So do you think that there could be theoretically a clone in existence as well as the real person, that there would be some sort of usefulness or kind of program to have them both exist simultaneously?
Probably.
Yeah.
It could be that. I mean, let's put it this way. When Hitler died, well, Hitler didn't die. His cousin was the one that was in the bunker.
Right.
I mean, even Stalin knew that. But Hitler died a few years ago down in Brazil, and you started looking at, you always have a stand-in. How many stand-ins? I mean, you got some identical stand-ins right now that were there for Bush. They're out in movies, and they make cartoons out of some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't see any stand-ins for Obama, but I haven't been watching it because the whole media is so controlled right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you only got a few people out here like yourself and Hannity trying to get some of the truth out there to people, and they set themselves. Remember, they're all attorneys. That's basically what the Congress is right now.
Uh-huh.
These people are very careful on how to protect themselves.
Right. Let's take this up a few thousand feet. Let's take a journey into space. Have you been hearing about this object near Mercury that they've discovered over the past? Well, they've just broke the news that it's there. Have you heard about this thing? And if you have, what's your take on it?
No, I haven't. I've been gone for the last 2.5 weeks, frankly, and I haven't paid attention to the going on. The only thing I know is I kind of look at monitors from what the information I get from the ETs of Kilauea taking off again, and now we're expecting some more earthquakes and expanding across the United States, as you know.
Right.
That's going to be coming up too. So the outer space stuff, we really can't address all of that at this minute. We have the technology to go to other planets, not using the propulsion systems that they talk about. Using petroleum. It's got to be using the frequency, the gravity wave amplifiers, and the other things that we have that are in Area S4 out in Nevada.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the alien intelligence. Now the alien intelligence, the extraterrestrials. I mean, do they have a name? Are they Pleiadians? Are they Syrians? Anunnaki? I mean, how do they dress themselves?
Well,
how do you know?
we're their descendants. When I first got involved with the physical craft, I'm sitting in Edwards Air Force Base, 10 away, and basically 10 feet away from an alien craft.
Right.
But when I 25 years after that, I was sitting here looking at the stuff when I was over in Switzerland with Billy Meyer, and Billy Meyer, of course, was in contact with the group from the Pleiades, if we want to call it that, and that's opened up the Pandora's box for me, because all of a sudden I've got the disc and everything else flying around me, and that's basically that's when I made an agreement with the ETs to publish their information, and that's what you were talking about before, the handbook, Embracing Rainbow Becoming, and the last one, the messages to the ground crew.
Yeah, that was really for me a profound and kind of groundbreaking book. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't go further than the first edition. But so let's take that book as a template, okay? So that book was written in at least I got it in 1998, 99. Where are we in terms of the scenarios that were proposed in that book? Where are we now as it relates to the information in the Handbook for the New Paradigm?
Have you? Do you have a copy of the last book of information that I've?
I don't, George. I just had the first copy. That's it.
Is that all?
Yep.
Well, let me read you I'll read this to your listeners.
Okay.
It is with regret that we inform you that the window of opportunity to salvage your planet and its human inhabitants is now closing. We're grateful for those beings that have heard the warnings and have turned their attention towards the creation of a more desirable outcome. Regretfully, the number is too few to make any measurable difference. The days ahead will be difficult and discouraging for those who now know what might have been. It is our suggested advice that those who are committed to their service as the ground crew redouble their efforts to draw to themselves a circle of believers to support each other to the days ahead. There's now more important activities for this force of will in order to focus the attention of a survival of a segment of awake and aware individuals to the times to come. These words are the most discouraging message we have given through this source. It's not intended to indicate your assistance in this cause is finished, but instead that it's more important than ever. Depressing as they sound, they simply indicate that each must draw from within themselves the ability to become more committed than ever, to find intention of finding ways to apply the universal laws in every situation that arise on a daily basis. Within every circumstance is opportunity. The laws do work, but remember the laws work for all who apply them, but more cooperatively with those that apply them in harmony with the creative flow of energy intended to expand and enhance the involvement of the conscious awareness towards perfect wisdom. As difficult as the planetary situation is, there's a purpose to it. Mankind must learn to be a responsible being individually, which then in composite form is reflected on the planetary whole. It also must be remembered that the adversarial energies that are being applied have been carefully planned and carried out over eons of sequential time. Humanity has been considered only as pawns in a chess game that contain more power plays than a third-dimensional mind can grasp. Does not relegate humanity to an unimportant role. Conscious awareness is at the top of the creational pile and not to be taken lightly. The last book, the Messages to the Ground Crew, I urge your listeners to contact us and get a whole set of them and read them a couple of times so they can be in contact with, quote, this awareness as we're talking about, because we're going to need all the guidance we can get in the days ahead.
So essentially they're saying we're screwed. Right? I mean, that's kind of the message.
That's exactly right. Essentially, Robert, it's like you and I getting together with other people around us in order to support us, knowing what's coming around, and then we're not going to stop it.
Right.
So whatever game that you thought you have or whatever belief system you thought you have, by reading all of the books, you're going to get a better understanding on how the universe works. And, we're just one of many of the millions of planets that are inhabited in the universe, but we're also considered the prison planet.